Okay, thanks. Welcome back. You're listening to Mike Parry. I'm on Talk Radio. I'm broadcasting to you from Talk Radio Towers. And we are talking about the migration, the illegal immigration crisis which has gripped this country to such an extent that the first migration camp in this country is opening on Monday. That kind of slipped under the radar, didn't it? Because not a lot of people knew that was going to happen. Apparently, the decision was only made last Wednesday. It's another attempt by Priti Patel, the Foreign Secretary, to try and stem the tide of migrants who are coming here. Something like 6,000 this year already. Numbers are growing all the time. And if you think about it, the people who are taking the brunt of the problem that this sort of thing creates and having to deal with it are those people who live down on the southeast coast, OK? Now, one of those gentlemen, David Monk, is leader of Folkestone and Hythe District Council. It is on his patch that the first migrant camp is opening near Folkestone, and I'm delighted to say that David will be with me very shortly to talk that through, OK? I mean, you can see the problem, folks, can't you? There was a wonderful narrative that I read in the last couple of days from a lady who lives in Dover, and she's a lady of a certain age, and she has some responsibilities in looking after other old people in the area who was unable to get to some of the homes she has to go to help these other people, because one morning she got up and the road out from her location near Dover to where she had to go was so completely full of people who just arrived on boats, scrambled up the beach, got onto the road, and were actually in the process of hanging clothes on trees that were wet and all that kind of stuff, but blocked the road and she couldn't get on. She had to call the police. The police eventually helped to get through, but those are the sort of problems being caused down in Kent at the moment. So, as I say, delighted that David Monk, leader of the Folkestone and Hythe District Council, is with me right now. David, thank you very much indeed for joining me.
You're welcome, Mike.
Thanks very much indeed. David, you just heard me explain the situation that I've just outlined. A poor lady who found that even the movements for her to go and aid other citizens was impeded by the fact that there were people in Kent blocking the roads who really shouldn't have been there. So you've got the first migrant camp opening on your patch in Folkestone on Monday. What sort of effect is it going to have? Is it going to help solve a problem which presumably has beleaguered you now for many years?
Okay, right. First and foremost, yes, this is in England. There is one in Wales. What's happened basically is because of COVID, this is a reception and dispersal centre.
Right.
Now we only found that out towards the end.
Yeah.
As you say, the information we've been given is very, very poor. We're getting it now. And so we're expecting 27 on Monday,
right,
and gradually go up. Now,
right,
this will be mixed nations as they come.
Mm-hmm.
It will be an open camp.
Yep.
And we are told that the preponderance will be single males.
Right.
Now, this is worrying because I don't know if I'm singular in thinking that 200 odd single males with not a lot to do are going to get into trouble.
Yeah.
Without a doubt, the residents around there are pretty fed up with it coming.
Yeah.
They've suffered a lot from traveller incursions recently, and they're understandably worried.
Yeah, well, I don't blame them. I thought that the capacity for this migrant camp was 400. From what you're telling me, it's not like a migrant camp in the sense of a prisoner of war camp. These people are not kept behind wire or anything like that. This is just where they are housed, but they're free to go anywhere they want within the vicinity, are they?
Yes, they are. But they are putting support services on site, and I just hope they're putting some sort of recreation on site, because we don't know how long they're going to stand there. We're told that as soon as they're placed, they will move on.
Yeah.
But placing is difficult at the moment, which is why they've had to set the camp up.
Yes, I understand that. Now, in a sense, is this taking the situation in Kent backwards? Because at least if these people come onto the beach, scrabble up the beach and then run away, they actually disperse. And a lot of them, I think, just from the fact that they've heard it's paved with gold, would head off to London. Is this actually keeping more people in Kent that might actually have dispersed around the country if that migrant camp wasn't there?
Well, your guess is as good as mine, Mike. But would we really want that? I mean, in responsibly, we wouldn't want that. We would want them to enter the system properly.
Yeah. Yes, you would want to enter the system properly. Now, the site is in the middle of nowhere, I'm told, and you've just said that these guys hang around, they do nothing. I mean, when you said that it's a recipe for disaster, what are you saying? Are you saying that, you know...
We don't want anything to fail. We don't want tensions. We've already got a lot of different people down in Folkestone. Yes, they're almost certainly going to congregate down there. Yeah, and I don't think I'm wrong when I say that. And again, I just undersold it at 200 young males. Yeah. Hanging about with nothing to do, I think, is a recipe for a disaster. Yeah, no, and that is actually very bad because it's bad for them as well as us. Yeah, I understand that. Now, as I understand it, the Home Office, which is led, of course, by Priti Patel, the Home Secretary, seem to think that if they can make conditions harsh at this camp, and I've seen a picture of, you know, some pretty flimsy-looking mattresses being delivered to some pretty crumbling old buildings. I think the camp's been there for 200 years or something. That the message then will go back, you know, the way they do on, you know, whichever communication means they use, that England's not a really good place to come anymore. They're not a soft touch anymore. They're now imposing upon us very harsh conditions. Think twice about coming here. You might be better off on the continent. Do you think it'll have that effect? Mike, your guess is as good as mine.
Yeah, but I mean, do you appreciate that could be one motive for doing it? I mean, if not, what else do you want the Foreign Office to do?
It is a temporary situation, we're told. Right. We're told that they've only leased it off the MOD for 1 year. Right. We hope that it will close down rapidly. Because the problem is it's been very, very calm seas. We're getting between 300 and 600 a week landing. Yes. And until the winter comes and stops that feeding, there's going to be a problem with finding places and dispersing them. Yeah. No, I understand that. Have you been affected so far with a rash of hotels in your area being bought up by the government to homeless people? I'm reading here, as part of a £4 billion 10-year contract with at least 50 hotels, many of which are in the southeast of England, the Home Office is believed to be spending hundreds of millions a month at a huge cost to the taxpayer. And of course, I mean, that alone is something we can't afford whilst we're massively in debt with the COVID-19 pandemic. Yeah, Mike, but what do we do with these people? We are quite a humanitarian nation. Yes. We got to do something with them. We can't make them homeless. Yes. It is a conundrum. Yeah. Now, if the French would play their part and actually stop them coming over, which I understand we pay them a lot of money to do that, then that would help enormously. Yeah, okay. I always have had a thought that the best way to get people to integrate into society is to make them feel a part of it. Now, I know you've got a huge problem there. You won't have a lot of sympathy for what I'm going to say. But if this army camp, as it was, which is now a migrant camp, if it was more than that, if these people were given a grant, say £5,000 each, and told, turn this into a community, almost like, you know, the first settlers in America who had to build Jamestown. They had a stake in it. They had an interest in it. They turned it into a community. They turned it into something they could be proud of. And if that could happen here and could happen all over the country, the northeast of England, the northwest of England's got more space than the southeast. Why don't we open these sort of things in the northeast, the northwest, and say to people, just like we developed a rush of new towns after the Second World War because we needed towns for people coming back from the war, why can't we develop these migrant camps into migrant towns and make them flourish? I don't know. Why don't you send that into the Home Office as a suggestion? Well, what do you think about it? Well, again, it depends where you put it, doesn't it? Yes. The camp itself wouldn't be a good place. You've hit the dichotomy right on the head when you said Could it be that it's not a nice place?
Yeah.
Well, if it's not a nice place, why would you want to convert it to a community?
Yeah.
It's a conundrum, isn't it?
It is a conundrum. So you make it unnice and hope people don't come, or you make it nice and then they do come, but at least then it's flourishing and we're contributing something. The people there contributing something to the economy. Anyway, listen, thank you very much indeed. That's David Monk. David, thank you very much indeed. Leader of Folkestone Hythe District Council. And I have to say that David did sound very fed up for most of that talk. And I don't blame him, because obviously he lives down in the South East. He's maybe a local man. He's the leader of the council. And he did sound well fed up, and I don't blame him. If you've got a problem like that on your doorstep, a lot of us moan about, problems with neighbours, problems with, people encroaching into our garden or something like that, or a neighbour who parks a big van in front of the house and cuts out all your light. But if you're facing literally 300 people a day arriving in your county and not knowing what to do with them, where to go, or what's going to happen next, it's a worry, isn't it? And I've got a lot of sympathy for people like that, because your way of life is threatened, and your very security, I suppose, and your security of tenure is frightening, and you've got to do it. It is a huge problem, and we should all hope that the Home Office and the Home Secretary, Priti Patel, can come up with some more constructive ideas